Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Welcome. What if your next level of healing wasn't about going deeper, but was about arriving right where you're at now? There's so much to say about this. So welcome. We're excited today. I'm Dr. Cheri and have Ellice Boone with me, and we are going to talk about that next level of healing. This is where a lot of people miss. And so we're going to step into really talking about the work you've already done and what you're doing with it. What insight have you already gained? What breakthroughs have you had, and maybe even call them miracles? And then, what have you touched that's real? And yet you may still feel unfinished. Your life may not reflect it. You may actually feel broken. And this is where we're going to go back and help, hopefully, how we can carve a path to discover ourselves.
Thank you, Cheri. I'm excited to be here again. We've had a little break for some travel, and it's good to be back. I think today's episode is so important because there are so many people out there who have done so much work on themselves already. And maybe that's you if you're listening, and yet you're feeling like your life, like you said, isn't reflecting the work or the experiences or the transformations that you were meant to have. So today's episode is kind of about touching in with ourselves and the insights that already exist from the work and the experience we've already had and done, and not just striving for the next experience, the next healing, the next therapy, but really embracing what it is you've learned and implementing it, which I think you can call integration. So it's another episode on some form of integration, what we have now and how to make it work in our lives. So I'm excited to dive in with you.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm really excited as well, because I feel like this is the integration part of this is about getting to know ourselves.
Mm.
So many times we think we know who we are, but we know what we're doing. We know what role we play. We know what obstacle we're trying to get over. We know what maybe flaw that we have. We may even know really embrace our gifts, but do we know, you know, ourselves? And the integration allows us to get in connection with that wholeness of who we are.
Mhm. Yeah, that's such a good point because it's not just about striving to become the next version of ourselves, but embracing the version of ourselves we currently are. And that subtle shift can make a world of difference for people.
World. Yes, yes. So I'm really excited, and at least I like you get started with it with a meditation, because I think getting everyone centered and grounded for this it is more imperative today than maybe even other episodes. So I know I need it.
I agree. So let's dive in. And today's meditation is just going to kind of drop us into ourselves and ask a question partway through. But we invite all of our listeners to take a moment to find a quiet, private space where you can be uninterrupted for just 5 minutes to take a moment to tune in with yourself. So once you've found your space, I invite you, if it feels safe and comfortable, to close your eyes and take what might be the first deep inhale of the day, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Continue with this deeper breathing in through the nose and an extended exhale out through the mouth. One more time here. in through the nose, and really extend that exhale, slowly, gently letting yourself be empty. And as you allow your breath to return to a very soft, natural rhythm, on each exhale, just allow the shoulders to drop. Allow your body to settle. And remind yourself that there's nothing you need to figure out. There's nothing you need to do or fix in this moment. Tell yourself too that there's not even a new insight that is required here. All that you're being asked to do is rest your awareness on your breath as it flows in and out. Arriving here fully and completely in this moment. And now bringing your awareness to your body, to where you're sitting or lying down. Really sink in and feel the support that is beneath you. And as you breathe, let that support hold you. Allow your body to melt into that space and fully relax. Bringing your attention back to your breath, not changing it, just noticing as you breathe, being aware of the inhale, being aware of the exhale. This is a rhythm that exists within you without thought, every moment of every day. It's been here with you all along. Now, I'd like you to bring to mind just one thing that you already know to be true. And try to allow this thought to just rise to the surface. Instead of searching or efforting, just breathe and see what comes to the surface. Perhaps it is a truth about your life, something about your relationships or the current path that you're on. Allow that truth to quietly surface. Noticing if this could be a boundary that maybe you need to hold. Maybe it's a choice that's been made in your heart. Or maybe it's just a way of being, but something that exists as a truth within you. And ask yourself now, are there any ways that this truth could be walked or lived more authentically in your life? Again, there's no judgment here. Try not to overthink it. Just allow any thoughts to surface. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now I'd like you to notice where this truth exists within your body. Where is this knowing located? Is it something that exists within your heart, held in your chest? Is it in your gut? Or is it rising up to your throat? Just observe here. Notice what might come. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And on your next breath, I want you to send that breath into the place that you noticed. Breathing in, allowing the oxygen to fill that space with warmth and air and light. Again, on the next inhale, creating space around this place in your body. And on the exhale, softening into that space. Again, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. There's nothing here to force. There's no time in this moment to take action, but just becoming aware, becoming more open, softening to what's already here, this truth that you hold. And notice if you can titrate between the difference of searching versus remembering, or striving versus allowing. And as you continue to breathe here, perhaps ask yourself, if I trusted what I already knew, if I trusted this truth that exists within me completely, what in my life would shift? Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let the answer arise here and let it be simple. Let it be doable. Let it be enough, whatever it is. Taking another deep breath in here through the nose and a long exhale through the mouth. Thanking yourself for showing up here in this moment. Whatever came to the surface, acknowledging that it was exactly as it was meant to be. And taking a moment to wiggle the hands and the feet. Feel your body again. Come back into the space. And when you feel ready, have a soft focus, noticing the room around you, and just coming back gently into the space. Thanks for joining us on that meditation.
And thank you, Elise, as always. It's perfect. And I think it fits exactly where we're going into our discussion. And it, for me, it took me right. It surprised me again, always surprises me. And I feel a little scattered this morning. So I thought, can I drop into it? And it's like so easy to drop with your voice and your guidance. I, it was interesting because I woke up this morning, at 4 in the morning and a little before 4, and that like your whole meditation was what I woke up to, and I recognized that I the reason I wanted to do this podcast was because it is possibly the work I'm doing now for myself, and we talk a lot about rooting, and we've rooted, and what all that entails, and hopefully, we provide some great tools for people to use in practical ways in our everyday life, because we get so many tools, especially therapy type tools, and then implementing them in our lives is a different story. Implementing them in the therapy room is one thing, but in our lives and how that works, we kind of get in this whirlwind of rebounding, and the rebounding phase I call is just life, and get thrown at us, and then how do we manage these tools with this life and not feel like we have to go? So let's talk more about that when we get back from the break. And really, I want to dive in a little more about that and more of my story.
Mhm.
But I'm told, let's go for it.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. We were just before the break speaking a little bit about integration, and Dr. Cheri, you were sharing a little bit about your story. I'd love for you to expand on that a little bit with the listeners.
Thank you. Where I cut off was that much of life is the rebound phase, and that is living life and trying to apply everything we know, what we knew from the moment before, or what we're working on in our own personal growth, and overcoming our obstacles. And then there becomes a point where we recognize that we have shifted and we're in the rise, and that is where I feel like we really connect with our most our greatest gifts, our love for ourselves, and then what other people call our higher self. And we're not in the performance mode anymore. We're really grasping what love and joy is. And then there is what I call, what we're talking about today. I hope we get to it and we can explain it, because I don't think I really talked about this before. And that is the post rising. And the post rising is really, that's the full integration where our wisdom comes to forth. And what that's about is where we recognize how we need to show up, give back, and what our strengths are, because every one of us has a strength, and that is, we're here to learn that. I think an ant is here to learn how to be a family because they're a community, and how to work hard and for the community. If you think about that in that way, it doesn't have to be ginormous, because even out of the small minute steps, great miracles happen. And so for me, I am in the stage where I am really being I've positioned myself, I guess. I want to say I'm called to, but I've done all the work to position myself to be in a leadership role. And at the same time, in my rebounding, even before rising, I've resisted. And I want to be part of the community. I'm not smart enough. I don't get it. I don't speak well. I mean, I have all my reasons. And then the rise, I play out the leadership role. But what's come to me is, no, now I'm recognizing my own personal wisdom in the leadership role. And and where that's come about is in my own work. I have um, in my own integration work, and from that meditation, getting those tools, that with all the tools we've talked about, the I have recognized and befriended that wise part of myself, and to the point where I have this appetite that I can't contain it within me. Now, it's not scholar. I'm not a major scholar. I'm not super, the smartest person in the world. I don't have great gifts. I really, and that supersedes anyone else. But there, it just it's if I am if I follow the feel where I've asked, where much is given, much is required. If I'm ready to do what I've asked, give back to what I've been given, I don't have to worry about anything. And so this is where I can be clumsy. I can still not follow a beat of music. I still can not have the greatest coordination. I can still have a lot of things about me that is Cheri, and still say something that I know that person needs. Be present in a way that needs to be present. Love the way Cheri loves, and because I know Cheri more than I've known her before. And then tomorrow I may wake up and I may be in the root position again, learning another layer of Cheri, and another rebound and another rise, because there's layers to us. But I don't want to lose this moment and miss who Cheri is now.
Mm. Yeah. I thank you for saying that last piece too, that you may be in the rising or the post rising, but then tomorrow you may be back and rooted, because it's not just like we have this timeline in our life that's linear and we go through a stage and then we rise and then forever we are enlightened, you know? I
Right.
think a falsity that many people have. Like, I'm going to be healed, I'm going to be enlightened, I'm going to reach this place where I don't need to do any more work. And what we're saying now is perhaps you don't need to do any more work or any more digging, but you do need to integrate the parts of you that you already know to be true. And I think part of that, from what you were speaking to your personal story, is like a full self acceptance. It's not
Yeah.
just, oh, this is the truth and I've got to live it. It's like, I've got to live it. And this is what it requires. It requires me to cast aside feelings and insecurities and step into leadership. It requires me to let go of these resistances that are holding me back, these thoughts and stories around who I am or what I'm capable of giving, and accept the fact that I have these gifts to give to the world and I want to be in service in this way, and I can step forward into that role. So that's just really inspiring, because I know how much work you've done, and it's very apparent in speaking with you and knowing you. And I think it's beautiful to know that even you at your stage, with all of the work and time you've put into yourself, as well as to your clients, you'll still continue to go through layers of continuing that process of going back to your roots and then coming back to yourself. And it continues happening forever, right?
Right. And the great thing about reaching this post-rising stage, where is that what was blocked is unblocked. Like you say, what we didn't see, we see. What was disconnected is no longer disconnected. And so it gives us we kind of enter a new world in a sense. And every world we enter, we're going to have rooted, rebound, and rising experiences, because this because now we know how important it is to always learn more about who we are. And as we learn more and more about who we are, we're going to do that cycle again. And
Mhm.
but it's wonderful to do it knowing we're going into it. That is the gift. Is like, okay, I know this is the gift, and therefore we don't have the fear, hopefully, of I'm stuck here forever in some of the rooted work, or feel like we're banging our head against the wall in the rebound work. It's like, no, this is all part of it. I'm missing something, and I will get through it.
Mhm.
That is where we can start experiencing, I think, true joy, because joy isn't, I think having joy doesn't mean we're always happy. Joy is we are celebrating our breath, and we find joy in that and the learning process and knowing we're probably not ever alone in some capacity or another.
Mhm. Yeah, so beautiful. Oh, I had a thought and it left me. It was back when you were talking about coming back to yourself. Maybe I'll come back to it. But yeah, this integration work, I think it's important to know that as we continue moving forward in our lives after we've had big experiences, if there are places that we're feeling stuck, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to go have another experience. It doesn't mean we have to seek more help, more therapy. It's not that those things are bad, but what we're asking in this moment is to kind of take a little bit of an inventory within and find if there are truths that you already know that you can make subtle small adjustments to live that truth more fully. And I think that that's more attainable. We just get so caught up sometimes in seeking the next thing. And maybe some people can feel this affinity towards the revelation, the transformation, the big experience. And in seeking that big experience, they're missing the most important part, which is applying that experience into micro, small changes in their life, perspective shifts, daily habits, whatever it is that's going to allow them to take steps closer to being their true self, to reaching the goals of who they want to be as they grow. So I think that that's kind of what the core of what we're talking about today is how to do that, how to take inventory within yourself and then take very small actionable steps towards applying that in your life.
Yes, yes. And so maybe we need to step back and like talk about a little about how do we do that inventory, and what does that inventory look like? And and my first off, instinct is I want to ask you for some of your life examples where you've done that, and then the other is, I think we capture those moments like maybe I did at almost 4 o'clock in the morning was, um, when I woke up, I said, okay, why am I waking up? And then I just listened to what came, and with a curiosity, not a judgment, and not even necessarily having to make a commitment until I listened for a long time, and then really pondered how to integrate this because I knew that's the course I wanted to do with it. But and I also recognize that a lot of times we feel so lost, and we spend so much time searching because we just don't trust that we've already accessed what we need to access, and that there are really the fact is that there are some things that are not meant to be resolved,
Mm.
and that's hard to reconcile with, because that sometimes if we don't recognize that, we stay in the rebound, we start swirling around back in the rebound because we have a hard time accepting that some things that didn't work were not meant to work, that it's not because we avoided doing something or we made a misstep, even though it looks like we did, is and this is what I call incomplete grief. you know um, Part of life is embracing incomplete grief, and that is acceptance of, as we say, acceptance of ourselves. Usually acceptance of ourselves is accepting our imperfections, which is incomplete grief, because we all want to be perfect. Really, if we all had our fairy tale, we'd all be perfect, and I don't know if there's a perfect person on this earth. And so, but that is, what if that's purposeful? Because how can we grow if we don't have this space to grow? So
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that after our next break.
sounds great.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness: Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising. And before our break, Elise was just beginning to share some insight and on, other aspects of acceptance and incomplete. I talked about that, and how these things can help us soften. Enough is enough. Help us appreciate being in the moment, and how we get the opportunity with these imperfected parts of us to be creators. And I think when we're creating, that is joy. That is our way of expressing love. That is a way of showing up of who we are. And so I do have that impulse, at least not to put you on the spot. If you could share a story where you think some of this happened, because one thing is, Elise and I have not really talked about this topic together in depth, and because we really have been doing this work in our retreat work, without talking about it, and we witnessed it in the beautiful women we've worked with happening, and so I think we've just taken it for granted, but breaking it down and how it's happened in our own lives has been kind of new territory for us. So I don't know if you can find a story, because I'm putting you on the spot, but if you do, I'd love to hear it. Well, I think we all would.
Thank you. I feel like there are so many stories that reflect what we're talking about. And maybe that's because throughout my life, I've gone through a bajillion stages of rooted and rising and back to rooted and digging things up and then coming to the surface and then peeling back more layers. In many moments, I feel like I've worked through some of the trauma in my life and felt on the other side of it completely. And then I notice ways in my life that I'm having more of a trauma response again. And so then kind of go back and so to go along with what we're talking about today, instead of going back into, okay, what was the trauma? I need to relive this. I need to dig up what all this trauma was. What does it mean? I've already done that work. I've already let go of the trauma, but it doesn't mean that I don't go back into habits. It doesn't mean that I don't kind of fall into patterning or just kind of the mundane of life where you go into autopilot and the things that you used to do sort of creep back in slowly. So while I'm a different version of myself that's not living from that reactive trauma state, I also sometimes go back to my old patterns. And so I think how I've done what we're speaking to is kind of checked in with myself like, hey, you already know what this trauma is like, what it's like to respond from that place. So, where can you just make a small adjustment in your life? I could say one thing that comes to mind is like people pleasing. That was a thing that really came from a lot of trauma and it permeated through my life. And it's something I continuously work with. Now, the idea behind people pleasing is that you sort of abandon yourself or betray yourself to please others. And so I've come such a long way in this but sometimes it creeps back in and I'll notice. And so, what I can do in these times for me, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast, journaling is a huge piece. So, I'll go in and just write things out, just free write and get all of the feelings out there. And that helps me to sort of clarify where I'm at, where I'm not acting in integrity with what my true self knows is right. And so let's say I'm, giving away too much time, or I'm, saying yes to things that I really don't have capacity for. And so it's kind of like an adjustment. Okay, so I'm seeing that I'm feeling all this stress and anxiety over this, and I'm not aligned here. My truth would be to say, actually, I have to say no to this. Actually, I can't show up here. And that would be being true to myself, and not abandoning myself. And so then I make that adjustment. I start saying no more. I start carving out a little more time for myself. And that's a simple way in my life that I feel I can kind of come back to my truth and start adjusting life to fit that. And to your point about joy, this is the only place that I can find joy, when I am in true alignment with myself, because I'm slowed down. I'm able to soak in the things around me, that bring me so much happiness. I'm able to touch in. And like you said, it doesn't mean I'm happy in every moment, but it does mean that I have the capacity for joy. I haven't stretched myself so thin or filled myself up so much to the breaking point to where I don't even have room within my physical body or my emotional body to feel joy. And so it's a slowing down, it's a coming back to the practices that work for me, and remembering, meditation, breath work, journaling, very accessible, very simple things that, and a connection to nature, huge for me. Doing those things, making space for those things, and then it sort of readjusts me back onto that path and allows for more just fulfillment and joy in my life. So I don't know if that answered your question specifically.
Yes,
It's a little
it does.
more.
Because no, I appreciate that, because and I love the example, because I think, one, I have evolved out of a people pleasing role, so I think it's very common, and I think one of the biggest obstacles we have in this world is self betrayal, and we don't have control of our emotions, and it could be that we have this habit of lying, even white lies, or it could be that people pleasing. There's all these are abandonment of ourselves and kind of hiding from who we really are in getting away with something, or in the intent of doing good for others, but it's still not doing good for us. And that is a rebound, whirlwind, and we get taste of rising, and it can feel scary. It can even feel like we're other betraying when we stop doing that, or we're exposed, or that is it's a big challenge, and it feels like people maybe not even go to therapy for people pleasing, unless they are like big codependent, people. But it is a great obstacle, and it's very courageous to um, call ourselves out and then do the work. And it's hard because we're in relationships, and every relationship is codependent to some degree. So how to find that fine line to stay away from that, and that is, and we do that by self-awareness. And then as we have self-awareness and we rise to the occasion, literally, then we celebrate that pole vaults to post rising, because we're celebrating, we're experiencing the joy, and we're owning it, and with love, owning it, with embracing ourselves in love, and recognizing we don't have to always go back and fix everything, fix the missteps we had. We grow from them, and we evolve from them. And I think that what it really does, it takes us out of the tendency to pathologize ourselves or label ourselves. I remember a story that was very significant to me. I went to a presentation from Carolyn Meese is her name, and she was an author, and she wrote several books, but she in the psychology world, and she shared that in her break, at the end of the day, she went to the coffee shop, and she went to sit down to eat before she went up to her room. And one of the participants came up to her and just So excited to see her. And then went into the story about being an adult child of alcoholic and on and on and on. And she breaking away from her tendency to be people pleasing, she had to stop the woman and said, excuse me, I was having my dinner and you weren't, and she did it really gracefully, but you weren't an invited guest. And, I find it curious that, you're defining yourself this way. And so, and then she just asked her to let her have her dinner, but it was a light bulb moment for me. It's like, is she an adult child alcoholic or is she? And then there's just so much more to us. And if we perpetuate these labels, we
Mhm.
become them. If we perpetuate in evolving to knowing ourselves and we're a friend to ourselves, we're a friend to ourselves and we become that. And then to everyone else.
Mhm.
So it is, that story is perfect. So I really appreciate it.
Mhm. Yeah, so good. And I think going back to what you asked about, how do we do this inventory? Yeah, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on it. I think for me, I mentioned the journaling. And I would also say just carving out time where I'm not stimulated by 1,000 things, where I'm not filling my schedule with busyness, where I'm just have quiet moment to touch in with myself. And I think that's why we both believe the meditations are an important part of this podcast in the beginning, because perhaps that's what people are doing to just take a moment for themselves. And maybe that's what they did this week to take a minute. Building those attainable goals of just taking a moment of quiet to touch in with yourself and kind of understand what is going on here underneath the surface, and allowing the thoughts to arise versus searching and forcing. And, it's not always a do, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's, you can just be and allow your body and your mind to let those emotions and those thoughts rise to the surface. And that can be really powerful, something so simple.
I agree with you. I think that is definitely the first place to start. I like to call it stand still, and I like stand still because I think of my yoga training. To be able to the mountain pose, that's just this stand and standing pose where you are just and you embody you stand straight, your spine is straight, your shoulders are back, your feet are planted, and you feel all the corners of your feet, and your arms are to your side. You can feel every aspect of your body. You're embodying you. And I feel that so much about rising is embodying. We're blessed with a body for a reason. Our body is our record keeper. Our body is our access to implementing our insights and our growth. And so many people are disconnected from their body, and standing still. When we stand still, we're embodied, but we're also quiet,
Mm.
and we quiet our mind, and that opens the avenue of knowledge flooding in. We recognize, okay, what we tend to be thinking about? How am I breathing? Is my heart rate going? Am I feeling low? Am I anxious? And we start getting in touch with our state in the present, which is so important. And then it opens a way of remembering
Mhm.
remembering who we are, and wherever that takes us. And then having that standstill moment is a statement of faith that more is to come, and it's purposeful. And so we stop, and we're purposeful. And then once we're purposeful, it creates a break where inspiration can flood in, and with that, and that inspiration can be a flood of a feeling of love, a flood of joy, or even insight, the specific, like, I know this is a message for me. And that's what's so important. So we can have the guided meditations, and then we can stand still. And
Mhm.
so I like to talk more about that, and, like, after you stand still, what the next steps are, and maybe we can go into that, and maybe we'll launch into a break now so that we don't get interrupted. We'll go right into that when we get back. So, rooted and rising. We'll be back in a moment.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. I'm Elise Boone, and I'm here with Dr. Cheri. Dr. Cheri, we have so much more to say on this subject, but we're coming to a close of the podcast. So I just want to throw it out there to you. Maybe you can give us kind of a summary of what we talked about and maybe some kind of in a step format. How do we accomplish this integration piece?
You know, as I talked about in past episodes, I think it's so important. We grow so much when we create little rituals in our life on a consistent basis. And so, of course, the meditations, you know, a meditation like you did, listen to the meditation over from the podcast, it would be perfect. And that find that standing still pose, you know, in your, if it's your mind eyes, or actually do it. And if you actually do it, it'd be great to do on the ground outside, because land is so, it just enriches with knowledge and wonder. And or standing in the ocean, you know, and just feel that the water, you know, its intelligence, its memories to embody us. And because we want to be embodied, whatever helps us be embodied. And then, you know, and then when you are exploring your growth, look for patterns, you know, and explore your history, not with judgment, with curiosity, and with that pattern in mind, and knowing that it all is a lesson for you to learn from, so it can be purposeful. And how's your body talking to you? Because, like I said, it's a record keeper. So where do you feel, like in the meditation, where are you feeling it speak to you, and what does that mean? And be, you know, keep it all in a state of curiosity and creativity, because it's a growing learning experience in the moment. And this is where transformation happens, and we miss transformation opportunities so much. I believe more than we realize we do. We get stuck, you know, and a lot of times we get stuck in the caterpillar stage. Sometimes we get cocoon, and then the cocoon falls off the tree, and we stay in that melted state, you know, we feel so beat up, you know. And then, but when we crack through that cocoon, we actually fly. We know the difference. I feel like every listener probably has had a post-rise moment and forgot to capture it, maybe, you know. But we're welcome if you want to share some post-rise stories. We'd love to hear them and be able to share the future podcasts, even, because we're coming from our experience and we want to hear your experience. And so that is some kind of ritual that can happen.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. It's a lot to encapsulate into just a couple of minutes, but I think we can come back to that stillness and doing whatever it is that resonates for you as a listener. Keep it simple, keep it attainable. Check in with yourself and see where you've come and where you were before. And this is one piece I really have been wanting to say. That was the thought I lost way back when. It is to celebrate your progress. Take time to celebrate your progress. Sometimes we get so busy with achieving the next thing, becoming the next version of ourselves, that we forget to look back and really acknowledge how far we've come. How would that person 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was, 6 months ago, how would that version of us look at the version of who we are today? At some point you were striving to be who you are right now. So take a moment to celebrate that, to acknowledge the transformation and the change that's already happened, and then continue taking steps forward. Okay, I think we have time for a couple of journal prompts and we'll close it out. But again, to our listeners, we always enjoy giving a few prompts at the end of the show. We encourage you to take some time to free write, allow your pen to flow on the paper, and let that subconscious really be accessed through the pen and the paper. And with keeping in mind to go back in time, maybe read some past journals or entries that you've written before and see how your perspective, see how your life has changed. For this week, our journal prompts are: where am I not telling the truth in real time? What boundary do I already know I need to set? And what am I afraid will happen if I fully live my truth? So take a moment this week to write some of those prompts. Like Dr. Cheri said, play back the meditation if that feels like you need more time to drop in there. And we are just so grateful you were here. Please like and share our podcast if you've enjoyed listening, and we will see you next week.
And I would like to throw in there real quick that, we are growing into doing more and more of our retreats, and we are implementing what we're sharing in our retreats. And we've seen some really great miracles happen, not because of us, because of the women who come and join us. And if you ever are curious about that, reach out to us, because we are most excited about this work, and because we just get to be part of those miracles, and it's great. I've seen exponential joy that's brought into our lives, and the catalyst for us to keep on, moving forward.
Yeah.
So follow our motto.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stay rooted and
Rising. Have a good one.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern.